Hi guys, welcome to another video from Stupid is the Norm, the channel where we demonstrate how to become a millionaire in 10 years whilst earning only minimum wage. And in this video I'm going to explain to you how to use debt as a tool. Now, using debt to become wealthy is a contentious issue. It shouldn't be because the maths is faultless, but there is a large emotional content to it. It's also the point that most people disagree with me on. So we're going to work through a couple of examples here to explain how it is the best way to use debt in order to become wealthy. There are two types of debt: consumer debt and investment debt. Let's deal with the first one first. Consumer debt. It's called consumer debt because it consumes, it eats, and what it eats is your wealth. A couple of examples of consumer debt are paying for a holiday or a meal on your credit card and not paying it off in full when the bill arrives the following month. You bought something once, you've consumed it, it's disappeared, and it's absolutely worthless. And long after you've finished on the holiday and finished the meal, you've forgotten what they were, you're still paying for the debt years to come if you don't pay it off in full and continue to pay what most people do, which is the minimum amount you have to pay each month. Investment debt is using debt to take control of and own an asset that's growing in value and kicking out an income. And by using debt to buy such an asset, you increase your net worth and your income. So I was talking to my daughters recently, and whilst they were looking forward to me dying and inheriting all this money, they were a little concerned about the level of debt that came with it, because there's probably going to be a couple of £1 million of the mortgage debt when I eventually pop my clogs. And they, not understanding the how to use debt as a tool, were a little concerned about that. And they'd said to me, "Dad, how is it we repay all this debt when you're gone?" And I said, "Well, you don't want to repay the debt down." And they were even more concerned at that. And they said, well, looked at each other and said, well, surely the best way to buy one of these assets and property is to buy it with no mortgage at all, and if you've got the cash, just to buy it for cash. And I says, no, definitely not. And here's why. So let's say you have £100,000 of cash in the bank and houses cost £100,000. And let's say again we live in a perfect world where there are no solicitors' fees to pay, no stamp duty, no broker's fees, no acquisition costs at all. It's just £100,000 and the property is yours. It's a fantasy world, but I'm just proving a point here. So you go up, you buy your house, £100,000, it's now your house. It rents out at £500 a month, so that's £6,000 a year, which is great. And also the property rises in value by 10%, so that's another £10,000. So the £10,000 plus the £6,000 rent, that's £16,000, or a 16% return on the cash invested, which is brilliant, right? As an alternative, let's say instead of using £100,000 to buy one property, we use the £100,000 to put a £25,000 deposit on 4 different properties. Now, you're still getting £500 a month rent, but you now have a mortgage on each of these properties, which is probably going to cost you £315 a month. So you're making £185 profit per month per property. So that's 740, that's 4 times 185, £740, which if you annualize that is £8,880. So we're already £2,880 greater than we had with just buying the property without a mortgage. But here's the kicker. We now have 10% growth on each of the 4 properties. So that's not just £10,000, it's 10,000 times 4. So that's £40,000 plus the 8,880 rent. Now we're making almost 50% return on our money, and that's because we've used debt to control the whole of the asset whilst only putting in 25% of it of our own cash. Ah, said my oldest daughter, I understand now, but when do we pay the mortgage off? And I said, you don't pay the mortgage off, you let inflation repay the mortgage. You let inflation repay the mortgage. How does that work? Let me explain. Let's revisit our property. We've bought it's worth £100,000. We have a £75,000 mortgage or 75% loan to value. Fast forward 25 years. Now, I don't know what the house's prices are going to be in 25 years time, but let's say my £100,000 house is now worth £250,000. I still have a £75,000 loan because I have an interest-only mortgage, and that means I'm not paying any of the principal down. So I still owe the bank £75,000. But because the property is now valued at £250,000, it's no longer 75% loan to value, only 30%. So as a percentage of the value of the property, the mortgage has been reduced to 30% and not its original 75%, thanks to inflation. And because of 25 years worth of deflation in the value of the currency, £75,000 in 25 years time was worth a lot less than £75,000 is today. It's probably back of the couch change money in 25 years time. So if you wanted to repay that £75,000, it's much easier to do in 25 years time. That's why governments borrow money over long periods. It wasn't until 60 years after the Second World War we finished paying the Americans back for the money we borrowed after the war in order to get us through the hard times that were caused by the war. 60 years that went on. So imagine what that was worth. The amount we borrowed in 1946, 60 years later, was worth pennies. And the government know that's why they borrow over such a long term, because they know that inflation devalues the amount you've borrowed. But it gets better than that as well, because, you know, as we said, our rent was £500. In 25 years' time, what do you suppose the rent will be? Well, it could be, because of inflation again, maybe it's as high as £1,500 a month or £2,000 a month. I don't know. But the mortgage repayment will stay the same because you still borrowed 75%. So that's probably still at £315. But you've now got £1,500 to £2,000 a month rent coming in. So again, the amount you're repaying on the mortgage is so much more or less. So why would you repay it? Why would you pay it off? And instead, what you could do is, if you had £75,000, was just put it towards your next purchase over another 25 years. Now, all that said, that's maths. The maths is absolutely faultless. However, I said at the beginning, there is a large emotional element here because people can't see past the debt. They can't see that they have £1.5 million of the debt, but it's secured on £5 million of the property. It doesn't matter about the debt. We're using the debt as a tool to grow our wealth. Now, the reason many people get this hang up over the debt is because we've been told through indoctrination that debt is bad. And debt is bad. Well, some debts are bad. If it's secured against an asset that's devaluing, then it's definitely bad. But if it's secured against an asset that's growing in value and delivering an income, it's not bad debt. Again, we're just using it as a tool. Don't be stupid and don't be normal, guys.